I am filming this on New Year's Eve, the final day of 2023. I have no idea when this is going up. It'll get up when I'm done with it and it's ready to go. However, since 2021, I have made somewhat of a habit of making a New Year's video where I sort of reflect on the year before. In the beginning of 2021, I made a video simply titled 2020, and I haven't really watched it since I uploaded it because, oh boy, I was all over the place. I talked about why I had been away, that I started doing witchcraft and paganism, and it was not the kind of bonkers that my audience was used to, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I might take it down. If I do take it down, just know at least at one point it was up there. Then, at the beginning of 2022, I had made a video that was sort of a reflection on not just 2021, but the entire uploading history of my channel and giving a glimpse behind the scenes as to why I've been present, why my uploading history has consistent lapses, and it just sort of like was a nice, neat little thing to bridge the gap and bring everything together. Then at the beginning of 2023, I made one of my personal favorites that I've made, which was My Liminal Hell, A Witch's Lament, which was my 2022 in review. And I got to talk about a lot. Got to talk about how I started off the year, I tried leaving Witch Talk and started doing cosplay, and the rest is history. Near the end of it, I got to talk about the Deity series and getting canceled as a result and sort of trying to pick up the pieces. So now here we are, this year's New Year's video, and I've had a whole bunch of ideas, what I wanted to do with it, what I wanted to talk about, and sort of put myself on a idealized trajectory for the new year, until I just asked myself, what's the fucking point? Now, don't get me wrong, clearly I still think a New Year's video is a good idea, as by the fact that I am making this video here and now, which you're going to see later. However, I have noticed something about myself and the life that I live, that when I set out to do something, if I announce it, if I say, I'm going to do this thing, either I don't do it, or when I get around to doing it, it's not exactly when I thought it was going to be, nor does it happen in the way that I thought it was going to look like. Take, for example, the idea that I was going to do a coffee table internet adventure for Suicide Mouse, aka Mickey Goes to Hell, a creepypasta that I love and I adore, and I wanted to dig in deeper and find some of the backstory, how it came to be, stuff like that. And then I started doing the research, and it just wasn't going to be nearly as cool of a video as I thought it was going to be. I could do the video in 15 minutes, like, yep, there it is. Here we go. It doesn't make for great entertainment. I'd had to put forth a lot of effort to try and spin it in a different way, and then it would no longer be a coffee table in an adventure. It would be something else entirely. Or how about the second part to the Ouija video that I had intended to do, which was one of the last coffee table internet adventures that I did. Actually, it was just Jakel's internet adventures because the coffee table that I was using had broken. But I wanted to make a follow-up to that, so it was more magical and occult and metaphysical, as opposed to the initial video, which was just digging in deeper to the history of the Ouija board, what it is, and what are some of the more practical things that explain how the Ouija board works. However, I am getting better. Progress is being made, because the video that went up before this one, at this current trajectory, was the third Halloween hangover, something that I've been wanting to do for years and finally got around to doing it. However, it went up right before Christmas. Clearly that's not Halloween, but at least I did it. I started doing it, I started filming it around Halloween time, but I wanted more. I felt there needed to be more fluff. I thought there needed to be more filler, more funny, goofy ha-has and shit. Instead, it wound up being more of a storytelling half hour. With the third Halloween hangover, we are finally starting to flesh out a Jakel egoverse, if you will, but the main characters that were presented were characters that had been conceptualized and brought to life on TikTok, not here. Chaz Flasberry notwithstanding, because Chaz Flasberry is sort of like the showrunner, the director of all of the Halloween hangovers, as well as the holiday hangover, and Chaz Flasberry needed to be a part of it. But all of this so far is just to bring forth examples as to why, even if I were to say, this is what I do, this is what I would like to do, this is how I am hoping my 2024 plays out, it's probably not going to look like that. What exactly would be the point in me having a projected idea and then getting everybody hyped up for what I am going to try to hold myself to do, and then odds are it's just not going to play out that way? Now, I did have another idea for a New Year's video, which is talking about the unreality of being a social media personality. But the majority of that video would just be regurgitating things that had been said by one of my current favorite YouTubers, Super Eye Patch Wolf, but then also putting it in my own way with my own style, my own flair, then adding and inserting my own experiences being a social media personality. Then I got carried away with the idea and the plotting portion of that video, and I just realized it was going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if it's something that I want to touch on and actually make a video about, I don't think it would be a good New Year's video. I'm just going to put that one in the back pocket, but there are some things that are in line with that train of thought that I think would be pertinent to bring up in the New Year's video. With that being said, I'm going to get to that now. However, if I do get too carried away, I might wind up taking all of the steam out of doing that video later. Let's find out together. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Jakel, the world's worst YouTuber, and today we are going to talk about the unreality of being a social media personality. When I was a teenager, I got really into When I was a teenager, I became a huge fan of professional wrestling, specifically WWE, even more hyper-specifically, Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. But it has been a while since I got into it because I don't even know if that's the nights that they're on anymore. I don't know, I am being presented with a unique opportunity. Should we just do the video that I wanted to do? I'm doing this left-handed. Could you be more specific? That's a yes, thank you. I knew for a goddamn fact that as a fan of professional wrestling, that pro wrestling is fake. But when people say it's fake, what do we actually mean by that? I think it would be more accurate to suggest that it is staged, it is rehearsed, it is a performance. It is not actually people having a beef and then duking it out with one another, but as a professional wrestling fan, you're aware of that. You know it's fake. You're there to have a good time and get caught up in a long-form storytelling narrative following your favorite superstars and the characters that they perform. We know it's fake. That's the point. And if it was not for the fact of their very specific thing, there wouldn't be the element of kayfabe. Kayfabe is playing into, how do I want to phrase this? I don't know if I can do justice trying to explain what kayfabe is. Kayfabe basically is the entire experience of playing a part, performing a character, and then selling it to the audience. And in that exchange, the audience is aware that it is a performance and that it is entertainment, and they buy into the narrative in order to be entertained. They suspend their disbelief because they are aware, but when they're in the ring, the superstars, the artists, the performers are in the ring, they are acting, and we are aware of that. In this, we wind up having the kayfabe umbrella, but it is up to the superstars to be the ones being in the kayfabe. They are the ones that are in the art. They are the performance artists. Mark Calloway plays the part of The Undertaker. John LeBeck plays the part of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, or more popularly known as Triple H. The list goes on. They are people playing a part, performing a character, and in that world of wrestling, they are selling you on the part in the narrative storyline that you are now being entertained by. Before I say the next part, I am going to remind everybody that this is not where we spill the tea, but it is where we sip the coffee. Every single social media influencer does the exact same goddamn thing. I have here in my hand a character sheet made specifically to play and partake in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. On the sheet is the character Jakel. When last I played this character, he was a fighter, a level 4 charlatan, who was a half-orc, chaotic good, eventually Eldritch Knight. When me and my now ex-wife were partaking in that campaign, I got really invested. So when the campaign was over, I continued on the story of that character in my own head. And eventually, that character became an Eldritch Knight. And I rewrote a few details, such as the character finding out that they are half-elf, not half-human, which is how they have a proficiency for magic. Eventually, Jakel would go on a wild adventure, getting reunited with his family, and eventually become a necromancer. Then there I am, finding myself in the later portion of the year 2017, and I start uploading to YouTube. I knew within the core of my being that every single YouTuber that at least I looked up to had a social media personality, a character that they were playing the part of for the sake of social media entertainment. At the time, my two favorite YouTubers were Destry Smith and Shane Dawson. Although I no longer support their content or watch anything that they put out, that's who I looked up to at the time. However, when Shane Dawson is off camera, he is Shane Yaw. When Destry Smith is not on camera, he is Destry Moore. Did you know that? In more recent years, we have characters like Ninja and Mr. Beast, who, although I know virtually nothing about them other than that they have a social media presence, I don't think that Ninja or Mr. Beast are their birth names, their government names, if you will. PewDiePie is Felix Schellberg. Jacksepticeye is Sean McLaughlin. Markiplier is Mark Fishbach. The list goes on. And when you wind up following one of these people and become invested in their content, you are appreciating and admiring the character that they are performing. My name is not Jakel. My name is Ethan. And with that being said, the only things that you really know about me are the things that have been presented via social media. When people come to YouTube or to some other form of social media content creation platform, they are now partaking in kayfabe. Whether they are just sharing whatever they want to share and there's not really a brand or anything like that, or if they have a whole idea and a world they want to live from which the content can spring forth. The people that you follow, you are partaking in kayfabe if you enjoy them. You are suspending your disbelief for the sake of entertainment that the person that you are being shown is a character. Now that a character has been selected, they are going to start building their brand. Whether it is non-niche content, whether they have some sort of values that they want to put forth out into the world, whether they're going to be a gamer, whether they're going to be a streamer or a video essay producer, it doesn't matter. Whatever content they are putting out and the way that they project their personality into the open world is what becomes a part of their brand. And this is part of the problem that I have been having the last couple of years making content, because I don't have a standard unified brand. And this is where I'm going to tell you a story, a tale of two Jakels. For the first couple of years that I was uploading to YouTube, I was trying out a whole bunch of different stuff. I was still trying to find my own voice, while at the same time trying to have fun, emulating some of my favorite content creators. There were a few things that I tried out that I really enjoyed, but it just wasn't working. And there were a few things that were working that I didn't want to continue partaking in. However, one of the things that typified my presence here was consistent lapses in uploading history. Then at the end of 2019, I rebooted my channel. I just scrapped everything that I had hoped to do and just started back over fresh. I wound up doing a lot of reaction style videos, and eventually that led to what I now call the Coffee Table Internet Adventures. I also took the time to breathe life into the coffee reviews, which I had started off emulating Shane Dawson by doing a few coffee creamer tastings and a few food tasting videos, which is how the Christmas snacks videos wound up starting. But in-depth coffee reviews, where a person is taking the time to go through all of the ins and outs, product packaging, the scent, the flavor, the aroma, the everything. I didn't see a lot of that being put out there, and it was something that I enjoyed doing, and given the opportunity, I will continue to do again. Then things came to a slow and eventually a screeching halt, because I realized I was part of a DID system, and dealing with my actual life behind the scenes took precedence over content creation. And in the void that the absence of YouTube now left gaping open, TikTok would eventually come to fill its place. I didn't know that TikTok would become the phenomenon that it is now. And part of the reason that it pulled me in was because instead of having to sit down and film and then move all the files over to my computer, put them in the editing software, and then proceed to edit, I could just pick up my phone, hit record, and now I'm making content. Everything is in-app, it is so much easier, so much smoother, and it just became far more convenient. By the fact that TikTok is far more user-friendly in general, I wound up spending more time doing that. And then it became the only thing that I was doing. Try as I might to continue making YouTube content, even trying to return, it just wasn't something that my lifestyle was able to make space for. I just couldn't keep up with it. And this is where the two Jakels diverge. It was always my hope and goal that by having a TikTok presence, I was going to be able to bring people over to YouTube. But what I didn't anticipate was that in the death of what Jakel was doing previously, new life would be found in Jakel in a completely different way. The witchcraft and occult communities. Although I had always been witchly inclined, it was just never a part of the Jakel brand before that. Although I did try to lean more with the spookier elements, courtesy of the coffee table internet adventures, it's just not something that I really built my persona around. And in the time that I wasn't uploading here, or at the very least not talking about it here, eventually witchcraft, magic, and occultism became somewhat a form of an escapism to cope with the real-life situations I had wound up in. I had also spent a lot of time in 2020 interacting with and engaging with the Witch Talk community and the Witch Talk adjacent communities on TikTok. And if there was something that I had already proven to myself that I was at least somewhat decent in, it was emulating the type of content that I liked to consume. Even when I was a kid, I would do parodies of other things, just playing it out with my friends, or before I ever thought about uploading to YouTube, I would make videos in my own time where I'm doing parody car commercials, parody commercials for plungers, parody commercials for spatulas. I was good at taking something that I liked, loved, and enjoyed thoroughly, breaking it down to its baser elements and either satirizing it or turning it into a parody of itself. So in May of 2021, I started making witchcraft and pagan content, sharing my knowledge on the things that I had spent a large portion of my time throughout my life studying and researching and obsessing over. But now I was able to emulate those who I was watching on Witch Talk, but I started doing it in my own way, presenting it in a way that was uniquely me, but not so different that it wasn't completely foreign to that community. And this is exactly how Jakel became rebranded as a witchcraft, pagan, and occult influencer. And yet, in spite of that, I had always tried to keep the idea of Jakel, the world's worst YouTuber, alive, if in no other place than in my mind. So I would come back to trying to do content here. I would come back to try to make different types of videos here. But for better or worse, it would appear that the world's worst YouTuber just couldn't be the world's worst YouTuber any longer. And that is exactly where I find myself now, stuck between two different Jakel personas, the world's worst YouTuber and whatever the fuck I'm doing on TikTok. Because whether I intended it or not, there very much are two completely different Jakel personas. The one that is a product of everything that I've done and not done here, as well as a product of everything that I've done on TikTok. By trying out a myriad of different things, and eventually finding a way to find my own voice, and then eventually stopping that, the world's worst YouTuber was created here. And then by jumping into a completely already formed community on TikTok, and then using my knowledge, my face, my skills in order to build a brand, and then making Jakel the face of it, the half-orc supreme, I guess. Let's call it the half-orc supreme. Because even though it's not something that anybody else calls me, it's sort of how I note the difference in my own mind. The half-orc supreme reigns supreme in fame and infamy on TikTok. Please note the less than serious tone in my last comment. I don't want to have to defend myself. I'm not being too serious. That leaves me with one huge question, something that I've been asking myself for the better part of 2023, and something that I am finding myself continually stumped as to finding an answer. And that question is, how do I reconcile? I have considered the option of just starting a completely new channel here and starting fresh, starting over. And although I think that would actually be minorly effective to some degree or another, I would have to start from ground zero. I would have to start from the bottom and build myself back up. I would have to start over from scratch completely and entirely. And although I wouldn't have the same problems that I have with this channel, with the algorithm having already made an opinion of me, and all of the ups and downs, the woes, the trials and errors, that's also history. That's a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears that I have put into this channel. Whether it's been successful or not, it's something that of anything I am proud in, and I can say that I'm proud in because if nothing else, I didn't fucking give up. Which also brings about the point that I am not going to give up on or forsake this channel. I'd wind up doing that to TikTok first. But now that also brings up an incredibly prevalent question. Why would I give up on TikTok first? The simplest answer I can come up with for that is that because TikTok just feels far more superficial and a lot less meaningful. And that is not meant to be a mark of shame against the entire platform. I love TikTok. Some of my favorite content creators are on TikTok. TikTok has completely changed the way that information is shared at an incredible rate via social media. TikTok changed the game, let's face it. For better or worse, nothing is the same since TikTok became popular. I think part of it also has to do with the way that TikTok operates as a platform. You're scrolling, and some things you like, some things you pass on, some things you share, some things you save, but you're just scrolling. There aren't personalities really that are formed unless you become invested in a series of videos that a particular content creator puts out. But by and large, it would appear that people are on TikTok because they like TikTok. They like the way that it is set up. And it isn't really that content creators stand out quite as much in the same way. Also, in the entire time that I have been either a content creator or a consumer of YouTube content, YouTube has just always felt a lot more personalized. You get to set up your own channel. You have your own art, your own banner, you can arrange different playlists, and you can basically customize your channel however you want to, so long as it is available within the tools handed to you by YouTube. That makes it seem a lot more significant to me personally in my eyes. When you are seeking a YouTube content creator, you are going back to that content creator. It's not a type of content. You're going back for the personality. You're going back for the persona. You're going back for the brand because an individual has made you feel good. And by no means am I saying that this is not or cannot be the case on TikTok, but the way that it's set up is just so vastly different. The only thing that they really have in common is being video sharing platforms, where anybody can make content and upload content. And another thing that's coming to mind is that when you do wind up enjoying a TikTok creator that you enjoy and do want to keep revisiting and going back to, it's not exactly easy finding the favorite videos that made you like that creator to begin with, unless they already have it filed away in a playlist or something like that. And there isn't a whole lot of personalization or customization on a page as opposed to a channel. And aside from going over the ins and outs and going over basically the same things that were pointed out by MatPat over on Film Theory or Game Theory or whichever it was in a video that he uploaded not too long ago, if we push all of the comparison and contrasting aside, the reason that I went to TikTok in the first place was to pass the time. That's it. I started uploading to TikTok talking about witchy shit and spiritual stuff and occultism and hyperfixating on the Egyptian god Satek to such a point that people started following me. People liked what I had to say for whatever reason, and I wound up with a following, and that's not what I set out to do. It's something that happened along the way. When I had first started uploading to TikTok, my entire world had just been turned upside down. My partner and I of 8 years had just broken up and were parting ways, and the turbulence that comes with that, not knowing where I'm going to be in 2 to 4 months from then, not knowing how my future is going to turn out, I was scared, I was terrified, and I used TikTok as a way to distract myself so I wasn't sitting there curled up in a fucking ball worried about what might wind up happening. And although something similar can be said about when I first started uploading to YouTube here, I was at least acting on something that I had always wanted to do. In many ways, when I first started uploading here, it was something to do to pass the time because my whole life had just been changed. Although things weren't quite the same kind of turbulent, I had just moved hours away from my hometown. I had no friends. I had a whole bunch of new things to get used to, and I was now a stay-at-home parent. Things were different. And I did come to YouTube in order to find something else to do, but I was acting on something I had always wanted to do. I had always wanted to be a YouTuber. I had always wanted to be a video maker. I had always wanted to do what I watched my favorite people do, because I could do it myself. That's part of the beauty of YouTube to begin with, is that it's YouTube. However, there are pros to TikTok. It is much more user-friendly. You can make content much more easily. You can make 1 to 15 videos in a day and not burn yourself out in the same way, or in the very least to the same degree. There is also the fun and genuinely awesome feature that TikTok has that YouTube does not, and that is comment response videos. Somebody leaves a comment, any comment, you can respond to that comment with a video, and in that you're able to interact and engage with your audience in a way that YouTube doesn't allow. You're able to actually feel like you can sit down and hang out with your regulars, people that comment frequently, people that are giving good and positive feedback, people that are asking questions. You can video respond to those comments and either call out the shitheads that are leaving troll-like or downright antagonistic, harassing, and bullying comments and tell them to fuck off, or you can build your community better by being able to interact at least closer to directly by talking to them directly, by responding with your face and your mouth hole to their comments. That's how I met my current partner, Shay. If I'm going to be completely honest, that's how that happened. Shay was somebody who was regularly and frequently in my comments giving cool and awesome feedback, and in a time where I didn't know who was safe to respond to after being canceled from Witch Talk, they wound up being a person that I could respond to and not get a whole bunch of backlash and feel like I could be accidentally responding to somebody who would rather see me in a ditch. And then removing romance from the equation, I have friends that I keep up with that I consider to be honest to goodness friends, although they're virtual friends. I have friends thanks to TikTok. That's something that I don't know if I could have ever had the experience on YouTube. If YouTube was the medium through which that was going through, it wouldn't have happened. I've met a lot of really awesome people through TikTok that now are invaluable friendships. So it's not as if I'm going to get rid of TikTok. It's not as if I'm going to just do away with whatever. What I'm worried about now, what I'm trying to accomplish moving forward into 2024 is finding a reconciliation between the two Jakels. And now before I ask the question of how do I do that, I think if we take a look at my 2023, we might start to realize it's already started to happen. Let's get to it. It's going to be one of those reviews. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this part, but I feel like it's necessary to at least get out the Cliff's Notes. So I'm going to start with where we left off with My Liminal Hell. We left off where I was broke as fuck, not able to really make ends meet, knowing that I was going to have to move at the beginning of June, trying to figure out what to do with my TikTok content after having been canceled by a huge number of people on the Witch Talk as a result of the Deity series. And although I was continuing to do deity interaction videos, I wasn't doing it the way that I had been before. I was also starting to incorporate my headmates, those who wanted to be a part of it. I was also starting to talk about just more normal life stuff. It wasn't going very far, but at the same time, it didn't really need to. Then there I am, at the end of January, one fateful night, I'm drinking by myself, as I was doing a lot at the time. I had had a particularly bad day, followed up with a particularly bad night. I wound up insanely triggered over a situation that I don't feel like getting into here, which then led into an autistic meltdown because, hi, I'm also on the spectrum. Back to the point. This entire shitstorm of a situation led me to say, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm going cold turkey. I'm done drinking. And I know I'm drinking a beer that lasted for about 4 months, but it was still necessary at the time. And just in general, I'm done giving a shit about the way that the algorithm and the community is going to judge me. I'm fucking off and doing my own thing. And that is what marked the beginning of what I now refer to as Jakel's feral era. It was where I was just making content to entertain myself and hoping those that viewed it were also entertained along the way, and I had a lot of fun. It felt like there was a silver lining in an incredibly depressed time where I felt like I was isolated and the only way I had to communicate with the outside world was via the internet. And then I started doing deity interaction videos again. This was precedented by the fact that I had also started talking about witchcraft and spirituality and paganism again, because it was working again. I started getting traction once again, and with that, I was able to start pointing to the thingy once again. However, I justified that within myself by viewing it as a job more than feeling like I was going to make a difference, feeling like I was going to touch the hearts of others. I was putting forth entertainment, and I was an entertainer, and I still am. Something that I've always tried to avoid is the idea, the title, and the moniker of teacher. Although I am somebody who shares a lot of information when it comes to the witchy stuff that I do on TikTok, I'm not taking anybody under my tutelage. I'm not guiding anybody. I'm nobody's mentor. I am an autistic person who these topics just happen to be amongst my special interests, and I info dump, and people learn from those. A teacher that does not make. I am an entertainer, and people just so happen to learn as a byproduct of that. Along the way, I also started making YouTube content again, because I wasn't as bothered by the same things that I was previously, so I started making a few videos where I am revisiting some of the content that I'd done before and redoing it. I was taking a shot at talking a little bit about witchcraft and occultism, and I think over the course of like 3 videos, and now we are in late April. We're worried about TikTok being banned. We're worried about the world being up in arms about something or another at this point. And I have to move in just over a month. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. And that's around the time that I start talking to Shay one-on-one outside of TikTok comments. And we wind up video chatting a lot. And we wind up texting a lot. And then the pressure of having to move and pack and having only myself to be able to do it, having to pack and move an entire apartment, the pressure got to me. And I started drinking again. And I didn't want to do it alone. And I didn't want to do it for the same reasons. So Shay was there with me when I broke my sobriety. 4 months to the day. And then I moved. I don't really want to focus on the ins and outs of that particular process. Let's just say it was exhausted. It required a lot of energy and a lot of strength. And by the time I was moved, every shred of mental and physical energy I had was gone. And yet, for whatever reason, I still felt that I needed to continue talking about witchy and spiritual topics. I felt the need that I had to continue making deity interaction videos, and none of that really went over swimmingly. None of that really went over supremely well. It was a process, an effort in futility, because instead of resting, I needed to find another reason to point to the thingy. Then I started focusing on other things, like reading the Sandman comics, like building the foundation for what my room has now become, such as spending time talking to Shay every single morning. And then I stopped doing deity interaction videos. I completely cut myself off from that entirely, and it was one of the best choices I had ever made. And then Shay moved in. Although the pretense for Shay moving in was to procure and secure a better and safer future for Shay, somewhere along the way we also wound up together. The two things have nothing to do with one another. It just kind of happened that way. Mind you, around the time that I moved in June, I really didn't upload anything here. I kind of just needed to focus on packing and doing other things, and with all of the energy that I was spending, one thing after another, as soon as I moved in, I just didn't really have the time or the energy or the space, since my room was cluttered with my stuff that I didn't have the energy to unpack. It was a while before I got around to making another video. But now we're going to timestamp ourselves somewhere in the middle of September, and I just completely stopped doing witchy and spiritual content altogether. Like, I got fed up. I got fed up with forcing myself. I got fed up with dealing with the ins and outs of fighting an uphill battle with the algorithm. And I was just like, what's the point in doing all of this with almost nothing in return? It's not what I want to do. Why am I arguing with the AI? Why am I arguing with people in the comments? Why am I putting myself at this emotional disposition when obviously I am completely dissatisfied doing it? And then we entered the second feral era, which I have titled in a playlist called Too Feral, Too Furious. Bonus points for ingenuity. I was doing it for the meme, bro. Self-referential things. If you haven't seen, you just wouldn't understand if you haven't seen the first Halloween Hangover. And speaking of the Halloween Hangover, we're on October now, and I decided to start filming for the third Halloween Hangover, because I wanted that to be an annual thing. But the last one that I had uploaded was in 2019, and we're in 2023. 4 years had passed without a Halloween Hangover. I wanted to fix that. And in the process, one of the last things that I did before quitting Witch Talk entirely was Ebon Bathory. Darkly greetings, initiates and acolytes, and welcome back to another lesson given by yours truly, Ebon Bathory, Dark Magician and Sorcerer Supreme. And today, we're going to teach you how to get schnockered by snorting just a little bit of graveyard dirt. With that character, I had officially returned to form by making fun of the things that I love, but at the same time, making fun of myself. And people applaud, people enjoy, and I don't have to take myself any kind of fucking seriously. It was beautiful. And then I stopped doing the witchy and spiritual thing. And then I remembered I actually kind of like doing the thing where I talk about witchcraft and occultism. So now I'm trying to do the Halloween hangover. And that, I don't know why, it was an emotional roller coaster for me. Probably because the last time I had done one was 4 years ago. In order to try to bring that spirit back, I had to split my mind into multiple different characters in order to get some semblance of an ego-verse started, which is what I wanted to do. And the Halloween hangover got shelved for a couple of months, and I did the Unus Annus video. Memento Mori. And then the Unus Annus video really helped me to remember that I really like making content here. And that I could do it in this place that I'm living in now. And I could do it effectively. And I didn't need to rely on TikTok quite the same way that I thought I had. And then over on TikTok, I start talking about Lilith. That was a bad idea. Because everybody's got their own idea about Lilith, and it's so far removed from the source material, because people think that source material for Lilith is actually source material when it's not. And I'm not getting into that here. But I wound up arguing with people left and right. And only a few people wanted to listen. And ooh, I quit again. And there I am, right, sitting there, living my best life. Halloween had come and gone, and we're nearing Thanksgiving when suddenly I get pulled back into deity interaction videos. And I'm like, you know what, sure, fuck it, Aphrodite. Let's go ahead and try this out and see what happens. And just as I predicted, it was a bad fucking idea. By the end of the year, I had done a whole bunch of figuring out what I don't want to do on TikTok. I had found out a whole bunch of what I enjoy doing on TikTok. I have also found out what kind of bullshit I'm not willing to put up with. And now that I'm here at the end of the year, it's kind of just a little bit witchy here and there, a little bit deity related over here, and mostly I'm just going around making content. And in the last couple of weeks, most of my content is warning people about the fact that there is somebody who has stolen my content, stolen my profile picture, and now they're entering people's DMs with some weird fucking contrived love and light language to say, "Grand Rising, dear person, I'm here and I'm going to offer you a reading." I don't offer readings. I don't do any of that shit. And one of you motherfuckers stole my content from TikTok, blocked me, and then uploaded it all to a page on YouTube that I cannot find, but it's there. And in all of these little clone accounts, there is a link to that specific page. And it appears I can't find that page because they've all blocked me. And there's not really a goddamn thing I can do about it. But hey, apparently I'm relevant enough to be copycatting. Maybe I got that going for me.
You hit internet fame, babe.
I hit internet fame. And I can't ignore the fact that some of my last couple of videos that I uploaded here was talking about bringing over witchy and occult content to this platform. I talked about it in an orc vlog. I talked about it in a video dedicated specifically to that idea. And then I did Intro to Hecate, where I presented the character of Ebon Bathory, where I presented the character of Detective Taylor, and then I just got to info dump about Hecate. And that was awesome. I loved making that video. I don't want it to be the only thing that I'm doing here, okay? Okay? Good. I'm glad to know that I can do that kind of content and do it well. I'm glad to know that if and when I do that content, it will be received well. And I am glad to know that I have officially killed the TikTok Jakel, absorbed the elements, and brought him into here. I'm sitting here asking the question, how do I properly reconcile the fact that there are two different Jakels wandering around on two different platforms just to come to the conclusion, I already did it. It already happened. What do I do now? I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to have myself a drink. And I'm going to pour 2 Pepsis into the drink. Like I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin, except with liquor and not beer. I'm going to break the rules a little bit and light a cigarette with my window popped open. Because it's New Year's Eve, and there's nobody else around to be bothered. It feels naughty smoking inside, so I'm not going to do it often. And I'm going to do all of this while sitting at my desk, because yes, I now have a desk. It's wibbly, it's wobbly. It's lightly used, because I got it for $15.88 from the Goodwill. And although I don't necessarily support Goodwill, your girl was broke, and she had to make ends meet and make do with what we had. And because I now have a desk, although it's not a coffee table, I can continue doing the internet adventures. I can go back to doing reaction style videos, and I can also continue doing videos like this one, where they're more longer formed. Some of them being video essays. Others talking about witchy, spooky, and occult and paranormal shit, because I love those things. And I am going to take the time to reflect fondly on the fact that whether I intended it or not, I did make 2 different Jakel personas, and that somewhere along the way, I was able to break them down, and now I'm in the process of bringing them together and reintegrating them into one persona. I'm also going to take the time to be grateful for the fact that even though it took a while, I'm no longer stuck in the liminal hell. And that I have things to look forward to, because now I have parts to piece together and stitch together a Frankenstein's monster of a Jakel. And that, if I let it be, can be an incredibly fun process. And also I am going to put forth the effort moving forward to make TikTok and YouTube 2 sides of the same coin, not 2 completely different characters that I am portraying. Because that has been one of the things that has fucked me up for the longest time. And I am also going to be very grateful that, at least this new year, I am not going to be ringing it in alone. I've got my significant other who lives with me, and I get to live with my 2 best friends, and I'm not alone this time. That actually really means a lot. And although I'm not 100% sure yet what I want to do with my social media presence, I am much more experienced in having figured out what I don't want it to look like. And I think by a matter of process of elimination, we've got a interesting path that we're at least starting the right foot forward upon. And now this one is to you, dear viewers. To those of you who have been here for a long time, it has been a wild fucking journey. For those of you who are new, welcome. It's good to have you around, and I appreciate that you are... Well, if you're at this point in the video, I'm going to assume that you enjoy the content. And to those of you that this is the first time that you've ever seen my face, yeah, go check some stuff out. I've done a lot of stuff. And it's a lot easier to catch up on YouTube than it is TikTok, I'm not gonna lie. And to those of you who have been here for a long while, a short while, or you're just here at this point near the end of the video, thanks for being around and giving good feedback. Sometimes bad feedback. Not sure if I appreciate it, but here's to you anyway. And all in all, I want to thank everybody who has bore witness to this bonkers fucking 2023. And I think that's where I'm going to sign off. If you're still here, I want to thank you for listening. And until next time, take care and much love.